Good morning, guys and gals. Gospel here. Gospel to the Geek. And I can't believe I'm doing a movie review. I don't even watch Marvel movies to begin with, much less make a movie review. But Thor Love and Thunder bothered me enough that I decided to make this. Okay, a little backstory here. But I was working on a video about Gore the God Butcher. I was already familiar with the character, and since they were going to make a movie about him, I thought, why not, take advantage of that? So I did. However, the movie was something else, and I'm not even sure if the video I made about gore was appropriate for the movie. By the way, that video is up, and I put a lot of effort on that, and in my incredibly biased opinion, it was decent. So give it a view if you feel like it. Anyway, since that other video didn't feel appropriate for the movie, I'm making this one. No editing this one though. I don't have 2 weeks to make this. I'm not writing a complex script either. This one's going to be unrefined. Anyway, if I were to make a review of the film in the fewest words possible, I would say it was dumbed down. Since it kind of reminds me of how cartoons are nowadays. Dumbed down. Back in the day, the most popular cartoons dealt with heavy and somewhat dark topics like drug addiction, crime, death, even faith and religion, which is what this channel is about. The art style was more iconic. You could see the amount of respect creators had for their work and for their audience, even if that audience were children. However, nowadays it feels like modern cartoons are so cartoony, cutesy, and sanitized to avoid dark and heavy topics. Bombarded with memeable content so they could sell more merchandise. At least that's what I think. I kind of feel that's what Thor Love and Thunder was like. It had the potential for heavy themes. First off, you have the God Butcher, a madman going around butchering people. However, how are you supposed to feel bad about what this maniac is doing if there's a screaming goat every 10 seconds? The first one was annoying enough, but I had to sit through 20 more of it? Also, how are you supposed to feel bad about what the God Butcher is doing when Thor and the gang even do more of it? Seriously, Thor, Jane Thor, and Valkyrie kill even more gods on screen and probably even off screen than Gore did. How am I supposed to cheer on for these heroes when they're just as bad as the bad guy? Then there is cancer, and cancer almost always gets to me. I don't know. I don't have any personal experience with it, but it just does. However, I felt nothing for Jane. Maybe it was the screaming goats, but I felt nothing at all, which is quite sad. I kind of liked Jane on this movie. She had a more involved role compared to the previous ones. A lot of people were going about how it was going to be a bait and switch, where Jane would get all the credit and Thor would be tossed to the side. Kind of like how they did it in the comics. But in my humble opinion, I didn't see that. This still felt like a Thor movie, not a Lady Thor movie. Speaking of Thor, Thor is really dumb here. Now, I don't really watch Marvel movies. Thanks for spoiling the end of Endgame for me, by the way, movie. But I guess that one's on me. Anyway, I've seen the other Thor movies, and you can see while he was fish out of water ignorant, he was not dumb. Ragnarok made him a bit more comical, but this one cranked it up to 100 on top of depleting his brain cells. Let's contrast this with the comic book the movie is very loosely based on. Here, we have three Thors, three potential dumb Thors. However, the dumbest one, if you could call him that, the young pre-worthy Thor, is a theoretical physicist compared to Thor in this movie. He wasn't very smart, and one could consider some of the things that happened to him in the comic as comedic relief. I mean, he rides a space shark in one scene to chase Gore, and he uses it to pummel the other Thors. Pretty funny stuff, right? He also had a similar naked scene to the one in the movie. But these bits are used sparingly, unlike in the movie. Now on to the big baddie, Gore. He's nothing like the original Gore. First off, they look very different. The original looks almost Lovecraftian, even, very alien and menacing. Here, he doesn't look scary at all. He looks frail, and kinda acts the part too. He gets tossed around so easily. Now, there is also some irony in the book about how Gore, who hates gods, is using a god weapon to kill gods, and is building a bomb made of and by gods. However, he achieves that by killing gods. Here, Gore's whole plan in the movie is essentially to get to the personification of the universe, Eternity, who is essentially a god, and pray to him to kill all the gods. That's it. He's supposed to hate gods, but his goal is to go to a god and to pray to him. And it is ridiculous how easy it is to get to this omnipotent wish granting device. All you need is a Bifrost. And since the Bifrost can take you anywhere, it can also take you to where Eternity is hiding. Even in Fate and Dragon Ball, you had to collect 7 balls or kill 7 heroes to get the wish granting thingy. Here, you only need one object. Ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, kids fighting monsters. Now, this is when it hit me that this movie was not only made to sell stuff to kids, but also insults the intelligence of its viewers. An 8-year-old cannot fight a monster, let alone monsters that can kill gods. Yes, I know they are supposed to be god kids, but they don't act like gods at all and behave just like human children. You know, a decent movie would tell children to run away from the monster, not rush head onto it. Anyway, I do think this is what the producers of the movie were going for. They wanted to sell this movie to kids. They wanted to make it memeable with the screaming goats. However, they threw in some stuff for the adults too. I mean, Zeus talking about orgies and Chris Hemsworth's butt. Not exactly child friendly material there. This was clearly marketed to an adult audience who would take their kids with them, and then those kids would buy Disney merch. And you know what? It may have worked at the start, but people are starting to realize this. Disney churns up dumbed down stuff like this every other month, and people are quite honestly getting sick of it. Just look at how many people are doing exactly what I'm doing right now and bashing Disney or the movie. At least I think that's what they're doing. Haven't really gotten the time to watch a review, but from the looks of it, the creators on YouTube don't really like it. And the church is kind of like this nowadays, too. Yes, this is a religious channel, so I have to bring religion into it somehow. And that's this part. I do think that we tend to dumb things down for kids in church, which is not always a good thing. They grow illiterate in the faith, and then we're supposed to be surprised when they leave the church later on in life. For example, during Children's Story Hour, almost every sermonette is about how God answers prayers. Just pray, and that will do it. You know, God is a wish granting genie of some sort. Now, this movie kind of touches on that subject, but it reinforces the wish granting genie part since Gore's prayer is actually answered by eternity. I think the comic book does a better job of doing this. Yes, I know the author of the comic is a non believer, but I like how, whether or not he knows it, he shows how God answers prayers most of the time. If you haven't seen my video yet, now's a good time to watch it. God sometimes answers prayers through miracles. They do exist, and they do happen in the present day. However, most of the time, God answers prayers indirectly, and not in the way most of us ask for it. See, in the comic, Thor's adventure all starts because of a prayer from a little girl for rain. Her world doesn't have any gods, so things aren't that great for her. So Thor goes looking for her gods. This eventually leads Thor to answer a whole bunch of other prayers too. The gods enslaved by Gore praying for salvation, the old Thor who lost faith in himself, the young Thor who could not lift Mjolnir, and even Gore, who deep down inside knew that he was doing wrong and secretly prayed for it all to end. The gods he saved from slavery then blessed the girl's godless world. This is how God answers most of our prayers, through the people he saved from sin. We, the church, can then bless this world through the Holy Spirit living within us. This is but one of the many things that we have dumbed down for children. We dumb down the story of the flood, the nature of God, maybe even creation. We sometimes leave out the depravity of men and the utter holiness of God. We condemn other interpretations of how God created the universe. So when children leave home with these dumbed down ideas of Christianity, what happens then? Just like the people disenfranchised with Disney, will they stop coming back to church? You know, the movie looked really fancy. Aside from gore, everything looked good. We try the same thing in church too. And maybe that gets the pews and coffers filled, but does it fill their soul with what it really needs? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children. Hosea 4:6. The movie isn't without its merits, though. It was fun. Seriously, the people in the theater loved the movie. It was dumb fun, if you wanted to shut down your brain for 2 minutes and just have fun. Though I don't know if that's a real positive. I'm kinda reaching here. Oh, it does attempt to be faithful to some degree on the comic book. It paints these pagan gods as selfish and corrupt who don't really care about their worshippers. Again, I go through this in my gore video. Watch it, please. Anyway, I'm sure there are more positives to that movie, but that's all I can think of right now. I didn't want to end on a sour note, since that's not what this channel is about. The church right now may not be perfect, but I think a lot of kids have started taking an interest in apologetics online, building up that knowledge base, so maybe we might be heading in the right direction. Although apologetics also has its downsides, but what doesn't? Only God is perfect. Anyway, I think I've run out of things to say. If you're still here, thank you, and I appreciate you for taking the time to listen to my little rant. This isn't my usual content. I swear it's a bit more polished. Speaking of which, I am currently working on a video about VTubers. I've decided that I'm just gonna embrace the fact that I am probably one. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified. I want to expose people to the gospel of Jesus Christ using Geek and Weeb media, because I sincerely believe that the gospel is for the geek. Godspeed, guys. Good friend Gospel here. Gospel to the geek. Gone. Bye bye!